All right, grasshoppers, the half hour that everybody on the planet waits for. Jackie Long. Everybody. You ever notice that sometimes when people say, this is what everybody's talking about, like you watch the news, everybody's talking about this.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, totally. Again, this is Jackie Long Hypnosis, very popular show we've had. This is our 7th show we've done so far, correct?
Yeah, I think today might be number 8. I'm always a week behind with the posting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
So again, Jackie Long, Hypnosis. I'm going to let her explain what hypnosis is. I think it's very educational and have her do this every show. But you can find her on Instagram at Jackie Long Hypnosis. Is it Jackie Long Hypnosis?
Yep, Jackie Long Hypnosis, yeah.
The website is JackieLongHypnosis.com. And then you can also find her on LinkedIn. So she does all her sessions online. I've learned a ton during these shows about stuff. So go ahead, Jackie. Tell us what hypnosis really is, please.
Sure. I mean, hypnosis is really just a natural state that your brain goes in and out of all day long. So we do it all the time without knowing that that's what it's called. So when you're first waking up, as you're falling asleep, or if you've ever driven somewhere, a route that you know really well, and maybe you get home and you're like, oh, I don't even remember getting here. You were daydreaming or something like that. That's a perfect example of what hypnosis is or what it feels like.
I'm much more aware of it now since you've explained it all to me. Today, I was leaving the beach where I go do my march every morning. And all of a sudden I realized I couldn't remember like last 5 minutes where I was. I was just hell yeah. So it's funny stuff.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
All right. So Jackie, I was telling Jackie before the show, we have a dog update. My arch nemesis, Pepper. Actually, the people, I don't even know the people. The dog's a cute dog and everything. So I kind of joke around when I say this, but it is kind of funny sometimes when all the dogs start barking at once. So we're in the condominium complex. I'd gone to Costco today, the happy place, and bought a big watermelon. I cut the watermelon in half and I know from eating so much watermelon that the other half is going to go bad before I get to it. So I cleaned everything up. The garbage was full. I was walking out to the garbage in the condominium complex, and the very nice woman with Pepper was walking outside to the garbage at the same time. And I thought to myself, Tom, you know what? Just do the right thing here. So I said to her, do you like watermelon? And she must know that I'm aggravated by the dog or something, because she was kind of shocked. She goes, yeah. And I said, well, I've got half a watermelon. It's not gonna be able to eat it. She says, oh, okay, we'll take it then. Thank you. And so I went and got it in the watermelon, came back out again. And as soon as I turned and walked away, the dog started barking at me again. So I just was getting a kick out of it. It just seemed to be funny, the whole scene. But I did my good deed for the day, so I feel good about myself.
There you go.
Yeah. So we can get a lot of people calling in, really very interested in all the stuff, all the hypnosis that you've talked about. And one thing I forgot to ask you, how long have you done this now?
Hypnosis, hypnotherapy, I've been doing for a little over 2 years. And the psychology stuff I've been doing for probably a decade now.
That's right, too. Because you worked at a school before, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I worked in multiple schools. I worked in residential centers, autism centers, lots of different places.
Good. And I'm going to to ask you, too, why, how did you hear about hypnosis? I mean, obviously, we've all heard of hypnosis, but what prompted you to start in the hypnosis? Did somebody tell you about it, or?
It was actually my senior year of college, one of my senior seminars in psychology. My professor had a guest lecturer come in, another professor in the school, and he just did a demonstration on one of my classmates using hypnosis, and I was fascinated.
Really?
My classmate just went right in, and he was helping her, giving her suggestions for test-taking anxiety, to help her take an upcoming test. And she talked about her experience when she came out of hypnosis, and I just found it so fascinating, and how he worked with the mind. And I said, you know what? I want to know more about that. So it took me several years to eventually go study that, but I was really, really curious. Yeah.
That's cool. So you've got that kind of mind. You like to learn new stuff.
Yeah. Especially, things that seem, different, or they're really effective, or, not everyone's using them. I'm like, oh, what is this about?
I just recently that I've learned to learn more. I think I'd gone through a period of like growing up playing sports. I guess I was still learning things, but it was more like the hard work, and, physical stuff and everything. It's just like, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I've decided this summer I'm going without air conditioning for the entire summer.
Oh, really?
And you know what?
How have you been doing this past week?
I've got a little fan that I have with me. I set it up by my bed at night, so I'm not too hot. And then downstairs I have it, so it's not awful. But it's just, you know what? I just learned, I really feel like I'm exercising my mind by telling myself, okay, I'm not hot. I'm just not accepting the fact I'm hot. It really wasn't that hard because I thought growing up on the farm, we didn't have air conditioning at all. My parents never lived in a home that had air conditioning. Their whole life of air conditioning. I thought, huh, it's really, I think it's kind of one of those things that, there's nothing, and I don't want to paint the wrong picture. There's something wrong with air conditioning. It's just, I think we can get in those ruts though, where we just assume that we're supposed to be having something that we really don't have to have.
Yeah, no, you really can use your mind to do some of that. I also grew up without air conditioning. My parents still they just don't want it. They don't, and they make it through. But it's been super hot these past week or two, the heat wave. So, I mean, I have air conditioning now, which I'm very happy about.
Well, don't get me wrong. It's not that I wouldn't mind air conditioning. It's just, I just feel like my mind is so much stronger than it's ever been now because all the exercise in the mind and learning things and everything. So it's actually been kind of motivating to just
cool
not have
exercise to do and just to see, if you're healthy enough to do that, to see like how you do with it. And you're probably saving a lot of money too.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yes. Yeah. So I've mentioned Larry Melnick to you in the past. I mean, Larry Melnick was an old teammate out of the show. Fantastic guy. I hate to say nice things. He's pop up on the screen here in a second, but he puts on the grouchy act all the time. He's actually a very nice guy. So he's going to chime in here a little bit. Well, I hope there's lots of deodorant and cologne. So one of the hilarious things is when he gets on the show, he dresses very nice. He's got cologne on all the time. So we have to hear from him a little soliloquy on the clothes he's wearing and his cologne and everything. So
nice.
There you go. So the power of the mind. God, I should have looked it up before I got on the show, but a friend of mine, this Rich Gaberti I'd coached with, we're going to start doing a show with him. He's a very motivating guy. I'm going to show with him on Thursdays in the morning. But he was telling me about a guy, and maybe you may, if I had more details. Apparently, this guy had gotten in a bike accident with his pedaling bike and was paralyzed. And the doctors told him in the hospital they probably would never walk again and may never move again. And this is several years ago, I assume. And he, through his mind, he just told himself he was going to walk again and got to the point where he walked again. And now he's a very motivated speaker. I think it's Joe Gillespie or something like that. I'll look it up next time we have a show. But I just, more and more I get involved in this mental health, and this is your world as well. You hear these stories about people that, and it's stuff that maybe you overlook in the past, but you realize, oh yeah, you just will yourself to do something. It's not that uncommon for that to happen, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard several stories like that. And actually, one of my teachers at hypnotherapy school, the reason she is a hypnotherapist professor is the same thing happened to her. She had gotten into an accident when she was young. She was living in Colombia. She had all of these issues from that accident, and she used hypnosis to just basically heal herself. She didn't have access in Colombia at that time to medical care back then. And she literally just went to see a hypnotherapist every week, and she would listen to these tapes, and she fully functioning, walking, all her memory, everything back. So it's just really fascinating to hear stories like that and what people can really do.
So there's medication too, right? PTSD, depression, anxiety. Would you rather people try to not use medicine first to try to heal themselves, and then, if possible, then they have to use medicine, or the other way around?
So I would prefer people do whatever feels right to them. I would never tell someone one or the other. It really is such a personal choice. And there's definitely situations where things can just get out of hand, and you may really need medication coupled with a certain type of therapy to get back on track, and so that people aren't suffering needlessly. So there's really something to say about both sides, and it's so individualized based on what someone's going through, what they need in the moment. But you usually hope that medication can be temporary, because I know there's side effects and other things, that people don't love about it. I do work with a lot of people that, say they'd like to get off their medications, and, through different therapies and through hypnosis and with like the permission of their doctor, a lot of people are able to get off them. But there's nothing wrong with needing to take them, or some people have things going on where they may need to be on it long term, just as you would with potentially a physical condition. But the cool thing is there's lots of different options, and, just working and finding the one or the combination that's going to work for you.
Yeah, like in some cases, depending on what the problem is, you get a medication as a temporary fix, as you said before, and then you work with your therapist and everything to get off the medication.
Yeah.
Yeah. just, I hope you don't mind, Dan, if I put this up there, but my wife and I noticed when our son skips a day without meds. So
yeah, certain. Like I've definitely worked with children in the past. Like for example, if they were on medication for ADHD or anxiety or something like that, I know sometimes parents would let them skip days or give them a break because there are side effects. And you usually will notice that the behavior is different because that's what the medication is doing. It's working, maybe on the impulsivity or the anxiety or things like that. So you may notice for sure a difference. And everyone has to find what works for them. I know certain parents, like let's say there's a break from school or even summer break, they may take their child off the medication to just give them a break from, the side effects. Usually there's like a decrease in appetite, sometimes sleeping issues. So that can be really challenging, especially for a child.
Right. And these kind of, so again, I know it's such a wide range of different problems, but do you become dependent on the medication, or is it a possibility to become dependent on the medication where maybe you could have gotten off the medication by working with yourself or the therapist?
I think, with medication, always work closely with your doctor. I think, certain medications, there's always a risk to become dependent. But, there's always ways, your doctor knows a safe way to take you off of a medication. Of course, never stop a medication without talking to your doctor. But there are ways to titrate down and get to lower levels or need less of it or potentially get off of it if it's safe to do so.
Right. I don't think we touched on this, but have you ever, I'm sure you've heard of this, the toad poison and the psilocybins?
Yeah, you and I talked about this briefly a while back, and I know more people are, getting into that kind of stuff.
Right. So it's become popular amongst like Mike Tyson, Joe Rogan, guys like some celebrities have done it. A buddy of mine, a former Navy SEAL who had a lot of problems, he did it and made a big difference in it. So, and again, I know you're not condoning this at all. It's not even legal yet. I don't think in the United States. It's in Mexico, and some people are doing it kind of where they're not supposed to here in the United States. But it's, I guess, so that one day they go in and they give large doses of psilocybin. So psilocybin is the correct word for it's just mushrooms, right?
Mushrooms, wild mushrooms. I don't know what type, but
yeah,
the mushrooms.
And this buddy of mine, he was in a room. He says like 10 people there monitoring him, and they give him this large dose of the psilocybins, and he just basically kind of freak out, like they're babbling. I guess it goes to the deep root of their problems. Mm-hmm. And in my friend's case, he was had a problem with alcohol, and couldn't knock it. And then I guess the next day, then they do this toad poison. It's the same thing. And they said he was outside doing backflips down a hill and stuff like that. He just lost his mind. But he just was. He said it's not something. Some people have said that it's pretty intense and that they really enjoyed it. He said he would never want to do it again unless he really had to. But he was a different person when he called me. He just, you could tell he's more life to him. He's actually working with, I don't know if this is how it all started, but he's doing security now with Joe Rogan. Pretty interesting stuff. It's just, there's all these different, another thing, we were down in a Navy SEAL down in Virginia Beach, had one of the training places that they put together. And they were using electric shock treatment for helping people with PTSD out of it.
Okay.
That's pretty out there.
That's I know they do still use it sometimes in severe cases, but that's more of an old school that we used to learn about, that like, this isn't really ethical. I do know sometimes they do use it in severe cases though, as it could be helpful, but it's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember in the room there, and this small little Asian guy was doing I'm looking at him like, I'm getting out of this place. Because I was like, that's why I looked at it too. It's like some old movie or something.
Yeah. But it just goes to show, like, what people will do to seek relief, because it really affects your whole life if your mental health is not where you'd like it to be. Right. But I'm glad, plant medicines, it is cool that's coming, that's an ancient technique. So I'm glad it's coming back into light. Plant medicine is super powerful. And, I think the more it becomes legalized or studied or researched, then it can be done in safe ways, at correct dosages, and maybe can help benefit more people,
Right. I'm putting you on the spot here with a few things. So if you don't want to answer. So how about marijuana? Both negative and positively. I mean, some people are using it recreationally and having problems because I guess it's not a lot different than alcohol, really, too, right? I mean, people abuse alcohol. But there's also some people that really believe in the medical benefits of smoking marijuana or the edibles, whatever. Right?
Right. So like there are medicinal, there's like doctors out there that prescribe medicinal marijuana and cannabis and things like that. So I have heard many, many stories where it can be very helpful in medicinal levels for people, whether it's, I don't know, there's different methods, right? The oils, the smoking, the juicing, you can juice cannabis. And actually, there are a lot of studies done with children who have seizures, often being prescribed medical marijuana and that being super helpful for them. So there's definitely benefit, it seems, based on, research and just what I've seen. But yeah, of course, I think any substance can be overused or abused if not taken safely or as prescribed.
So there's no one reason why people become addicted to drugs or alcohol, is there?
There's no one, it's going to look different for everyone, but honestly, pretty much the root of that almost all the time is childhood trauma.
Really?
Yeah. And that can look different for every single person, whatever that means, it can be abusive parents, it can just be neglect, there's so many reasons, that can be categorized as trauma or, an adverse, environmental effect. And that's typically why, typically, not always, because everyone's an individual.
That's interesting. Wow. So you don't think that it's not a hereditary thing then, because in a family, like family genes or whatever, that the parents are drinkers? Or is it more
that is talked about that like sometimes there could be a biological component. But it seems that environment or trauma is more of a factor a lot of times than the biological piece.
Interesting. This is, Danny, I'm assuming you're being serious on this. I think you are. The worst addiction seems to be food addiction. Is that accurate?
So that is an addiction as well. I don't know if I would call it worst or best or label any of them. It's just obviously if someone's suffering from any kind of addiction, it's really difficult. And food addiction, that's a real thing. I mean, also there's a lot of additives and a lot of junk food out there that make them addictive on purpose. So it's really tricky. And that it changes chemicals in your brain and you can be addicted to food for sure.
That's one of my big pet peeves. And I don't mean this to be critical of people that are overweight. It's just that we do you watch TV commercials, whether it's fast food restaurants, like you said before, all the stuff that's been put in these foods for years and years now. We've become, I think, kind of like, I'm a big believer that hundreds of years ago, food was nutrition. It wasn't for comfort and joy. There was no salts and sugars in it. It was for nutrition. In fact, we fasted naturally because we didn't have refrigerators or stores. You just ate food. Right. And now it's turned into something that it's like, I'm careful to tell the stories, but there's a lot of people that they look at food now like, oh man, I just can't wait to have it. Whereas again, I think there's just another thing you train your brain. Like that's why I try to teach people if they want to lose weight, instead of like going on a 6-week plan to lose 20 pounds, like change your lifestyle, change the way you look at things, love yourself better, strengthen your mind, all those things. And I just think that you naturally eat healthier, right?
That would make it, that's what we do with hypnotherapy too, for weight loss too, because you want your subconscious mind which works automatically, to be making the easier decisions for you. So you're not always using willpower, because willpower is about 10% and the other 90% is your automatic programs running. And you want all of that to be working together for you. So it's a lot easier, because it's going to be hard to go up against 90% of automatic programming with just your 10% of willpower. That can be really, really difficult.
Well, you every show you come up with a little nugget for me. Like that just fascinating. It's like every show, like 10%. So if you're trying to fight through something, it's typically like roughly 10% of it is will. The rest is the way you've trained your mind.
Is your automatic subconscious programming, what's already in there running behind the scenes. So that's why we use hypnotherapy, to go in and maybe change a subconscious program that is working against you, and food is so available to us now.
Right.
It's just,
and you can, but again, like you said before, you can also train your subconscious, right, to fight through things. Okay.
Yeah.
So like I believe that, so I go in the gym. So I believe that your body is there, your body and your mind is there to kind of protect you. You get tired, it says, okay, you need to stop now. So I'll try to do, if I want to do 5 sets of 12 reps, and I'll try to put on a weight so that when I get to 8 or 9 reps, my body and mind start to say to me, Tom, you need to stop. And then I say, well, no, then I don't worry about the 12 reps. I just worry about the next rep. And I feel like I'm constantly training my mind to now push through that time when my body and mind is telling me to stop because it's tired. I feel like I'm getting stronger. And that's the stuff like, joke around about it, but not having the air conditioning on, I really think that's strengthening my mind. Right? Yeah. I'm not just a stubborn old jerk. Because that's actually doing something good for myself. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I think you're wanting to push yourself in certain ways, and these are the ways that like are working for you. And I think that's whatever works for you, right?
Yeah. And I guess like you're the same way because you do the meditation, you do hypnosis, so you're strengthening yourself. It's just a different, like you're saying, it's just a different.
Yeah, like there's so many ways, and you have to know like your stopping points, right? Like when you can actually do one more rep versus hey, I should really stop right now before I hurt myself, right?
See, I don't think I do know. That's the problem. I really think that I've trained my subconscious mind to go past that point. It's funny again. I think I've told you this too. Doing this, I do a lot of these speaking engagements. Did the speaking engagement yesterday online, and it's funny because it kind of reminds me of old stories that stuff that made me the way I am. It was like my second or third year in the league, and it hurt my arm. And went to see the trainer. I was supposed to be the tough old guy and not tell anybody else and everything. And he says, "Tom, you've torn your tricep muscle. It's rolled up into a ball in the back of your arm." And I said, "Okay, well, then we just keep playing." And it was painful. But I said, "Don't you tell anybody. Don't tell the coaches. Don't tell my teammates." And it's the weirdest thing because the doctor came in, but 2 weeks after it happened, I was icing my arm, and he asked me between periods in the training room, and he asked me what happened. I said, "Well, I think I did something to my arm." I knew what I had done, so he took a look at it, and he says, "Your tricep is rolled up in a ball in the back of your arm." And the weirdest thing, though, it's like it just fired me up totally. I was just so proud of the fact that I was playing with a torch. I think back about it now. I was like, "What?" I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why you get like that.
Well, I think like in sports, a lot of you athletes, right? You power through a lot of injuries to keep playing the game or whatever you got to do.
Yeah, and I do think, like you're saying, like we train our subconscious mind to say, "Okay, we'll be fine. It does hurt.
Right.
You'll be hurt before. It's always healed." So it's that, like, I do know that when you first hurt something, like, "Oh God, this is terrible." But then you think to yourself, "Okay, Tom, you've been hurt thousands of times. It's always healed. So just suck it up and you'll be fine." So, yeah. Interesting. Danny's on fire here today with some questions. Yes, that's a great point. So did I have the same work ethic? Yes, I grew up in that farm life with my father and grandfather. I think I've told the story many times, and they never talked to me about it. It's all I just ever saw from them is that work ethic. I will tell you this though, I know for sure that I was not aware of my work ethic or how I accomplish things as I am now. Like I'm much more, okay, I know why I'm able to outwork other people maybe, or work through things. It's just that I think that's the story with my whole life now. It's mentally, physically, just being more aware, right? Do you think that kind of, like for me, like we talk so much about loving yourself, do you think that's kind of learning too about yourself and understanding who you are, that you're, listen, if you got something that's different than somebody else, you're still a great person. You're just different, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're getting away from mental health, but I'm not sure if the athlete has the same work ethic. I think they do, Danny. I think it's just different. I don't think too, like we hear a lot of millennials are this way or Generation X is a certain way. I mean, it's a pretty broad statement. Not every millennial is the same way. Like I just don't buy into that, right?
Yeah, it's really, kind of what you grew up with. And like you were raised on a farm, you probably just always worked and that's what you did. And you didn't know until you were older, like you said, that, other people maybe didn't grow up on a farm and do this kind of work and learn the same exact type of work ethic. But yeah, it really just depends on how you were raised, I think.
As a question I wanted to ask you too, since we start talking. So in the sports world, during the regular season, very often there's back-to-back games. They may play like on a Friday night, Saturday night. And the numbers bear out that in the back-to-back game, the second of back-to-back games, the team that's playing that second game typically has a less chance of winning in that back-to-back game.
Okay.
And they say, well, because you're tired. Well, don't you think that's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're being told over and over that you're tired? So you play like you're tired or you work like you're tired because of that?
Yeah, it can be. It can be if they're allowing that if they're allowing it in, it can affect them. But if they're blocking it out, I know a lot of athletes do a lot of mind work to block out the noise and stay in their zone and stay focused. So yeah, it really depends on what they're hearing as a team, as individuals, what they're choosing to believe.
Right. Because I do see a lot of teams, and I think it's a mistake. It's a good point, but they're not blocking out. Even the teams themselves and the coaches, they play that second game thinking they've got less of a chance to win. They may play the backup goaltender to give the other goaltender a rest. Like, well, we're not going to win the game anyways, or we're less likely to win it. So do stuff like that. Where there was a coach, this John Tortorella, I coached the Rangers for a few years. He's now down in Philadelphia. And I'll never forget one year, I think he was in Columbus at the time, and he was asked that about it. He said, stop talking about that. That's, he was doing what you suggested. He just didn't want it. But the reporters kept asking about it all the time. He says, no, it's not a fact. It's in our mind. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I find, even if you are, I think it's when I met your husband the night we were in Raleigh, we didn't get back. I didn't get home until about 2:00 in the morning. And then I get up at 3:30 and it was one of the best days I had, because I convinced myself that, Tom, you're only going to get an hour and a half of sleep. But I remember being so refreshed and everything, because I just got it in my mind that, okay, you're going to be tired physically. So now you got to push harder. You might.
Amazing.
That fired me up, though. I was so I was on the plane actually too, and everybody knew I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning. They're going, there's no way you're getting up at 3:30. I said, oh yeah, you watch. Yeah.
You get up at 3:30 every single day?
Yes, I do.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I started all this at True Grit Life, my youngest son, Cody, had pushed me for years to get into branding and marketing myself. He was following hip hop artists all the time, and they're very good at branding themselves, like 50 Cent and Usher and all these guys. Yeah. So I said, Cody, nobody cares about it. I was like, I was a slug defenseman or whatever. He says, well, that's the point, Dad. That's who you are. Yeah. So we started doing it, and I didn't know where it was going to go, but we were setting everything up, like my schedule. And he said, well, I said, part of it is, it's the farm boy life of getting up early. And I was going to do it at 4:00, but there was this Navy SEAL, a pretty famous guy now, Jocko Willink. He was just getting started with his stuff, and he was getting up at 4 a.m. So I said, well, I got to beat him. I can't just do 4 o'clock.
That's great.
At first, it was great. At first, like 2 or 3 weeks. And then I went through about a month there, like thinking to myself, oh God, what did I get myself into? Yeah. But now it's, now it's just, I can't sleep in now. If I set an alarm, I set an alarm, but usually I'm up before the alarm. And, I have this whole thing where it's just, that alarm goes off and you got to turn the light on, you got to get going.
Yeah. Your body adapts,
Yeah, I do. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and then I'm at the gym by like 4:10. I leave for the gym. I've got this whole schedule where I have to do everything at a certain time. I told you, but I had an old teammate of mine that had a rough upbringing, and he grew up in a trailer park. And the number on his trailer park was 353. So he asked me if I would go out and do my morning motivational video at 3:53 in the morning.
Oh, that's great.
And he notices it every day and likes it on Instagram. And I've missed it a couple of times. Now that I'm doing it all the time, I'm doing it for him. It just bugs me that if I miss it, I just like, oh,
that's nice.
So yeah, that's the thing with me. Everything's changed just on this rigid schedule and I feel it's just so much better about myself when I'm on the schedule. Do you think that, like, I try to train people that by being more disciplined like that, you feel better about yourself, don't you? Do you believe in that?
A lot of people talk about like having a schedule and a routine, especially in the morning, to set yourself up for the day. Me personally, I definitely feel better when I do that. But everyone's different. But, I know if you get things done in the morning, like they say, even making your bed, you start to feel accomplished, not looking at your phone maybe for the first half hour of the day, and like getting other things done, getting your workout done in the morning if you can. You feel more accomplished as you go about your day, and it really sets you up.
Yeah, it does. Did we talk about that Admiral William Mcraven, the making your bed speech? Are you familiar with that?
I don't think so. No.
So there's this Admiral William Mcraven. He's pretty famous now too. Very good speaker. Probably about 10 years ago, he did a speech. I think it was graduating class at the University of Texas, where he attended. And, he's got the uniform on. He's that like rugged looking guy and everything. And you think he's going to be talking about fighting wars. And he started talking about the 10 things he learned at Navy SEAL training. And the first thing he talked about was making your bed properly. Mm-hmm. And he knew, even like when he started talking, he giggled a little bit himself, because he knew, like, you're talking about making your bed properly. Mm-hmm. But he put on a great speech about how if you can't do the little things right, you won't be able to do the big things right. You're doing something first thing in the morning for yourself. It's all part of the routine and everything. And so when you go out now during the day, you've now started that mechanism, kind of like, okay, I'm going to do things the right way. I'm not just going to do them. I just don't make the bed. I make it perfect. And I tell you, it's really changed my life too. It's really like, like when I go for a walk, I call it a march now, because I want to get the most out of each stride. Like, it's really, I think it just accentuates probably what I already knew, but just like, okay, if you're going to do something, do it all out, like get the best of it. So
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So I live a strange schedule, but
That's amazing. Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason why I'm single. Nobody wants to be in the bed. It's like I make it at 3:30 in the morning.
I'm thinking with someone that can sleep through, alarms and all of that.
I know. It's true.
Or someone that wants to get up early too. I don't know.
Could be. It is funny though. There's some people they get. I've learned to be careful to kind of tone it down. As the way I live my life is the way I live my life. But the way I present it to other people, we're going to do a ruck challenge. I never mentioned this to you. A ruck challenge, if you don't know, it's basically a backpack and they put weights in it based on your conditioning level. If you're in good shape and you go on a march or a hike or whatever. And myself and this Navy SEAL that I mentioned before and a trainer, we're going to put this thing on. Then we have people that would register. We'd walk for a while and then they do a motivational speech and then walk some more. But nobody was signing up. And so I called some people. I said, so why isn't anybody signing up? They go, Tom, you're intimidating everybody. It's you. It's a Navy SEAL. So you get up at 3:30 in the morning and all this stuff. So I've learned that when I'm speaking to people, I say, okay, this is what I do. You don't have to do the same thing. No.
Right. Kind of meeting them where they're at.
Yeah. Just and that's been a big lesson for me. Seriousness, to just force more say to people, listen, you don't have to be like Tom Laidlaw or Jackie Long or anybody else. You be you. Just be a better you every day. Just try to get better all the time. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very much. So we got another show next week, and then you're taking off on us, and we'll have a guest.
I'll be out next week, starting next week.
Okay, you're done. So we'll have our guest. What's her name again?
Kathleen McIntosh.
The Canadian.
Yes.
So we'll speak out and about and and
there you go.
There you go. Yeah. So we won't see you for what month then? About
3 weeks. Yeah.
Geez, you'll be missed. Oh, I'm pretty happy about that though, because now I can get the limelight back on me instead of.
There you go. See how it goes. There you
go. Well, good luck with everything, and we'll see you when you get back.
Thank you. Sounds good.
Bye, Jack.